The Australian Financial Review.
For any leader, knowing how to communicate a message is key.
I think one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're trying to communicate is they don't find a way to tell their story which connects with the key audience. You're engaging as a human being and they want you to be authentic and genuine and honest.
Welcome to 15 Minutes with the Boss, a podcast about success, failure, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Sally Patton. My guest today is Liz Hughes, the Chief Executive of the National Institute of Dramatic Art, aka NIDA, Australia's National Arts School for the Screen and Stage, that boasts some of the country's most famous faces among its alumni, including Cate Blanchett, Sarah Snook, and Baz Luhrmann. Now, Liz, we haven't got long today. We've only got 15 minutes, so I'm going to start the clock right now. And my first question is about your morning routine. What time do you get up? What happens? Are you a breakfast person?
Okay, so I get up about 6 a.m. on the dot. I have a coffee and I literally start about an hour's work just to catch up on the day before. Often we're out in the evenings in these jobs, so I don't have an opportunity in the evening. So I catch up in the morning and then 2 or 3 times a week I go and do weight training as well, which I love doing. I'm quite addicted to it actually.
And do you do breakfast?
I try to. I do tend to have a couple of coffees first and I tend to have breakfast pretty much when I'm in the office, about 9 or 10.
Okay, and how many coffees first?
2.
Only 2? Okay, that's not too bad. And breakfast is?
Yogurt, fruit, pretty consistently.
Okay, my next question is about a pivotal moment in your career. Was there a promotion you were given, a project that you worked on that somehow changed the trajectory of your career?
So I remember when I decided to make a decision because I'd fallen in love. So I decided to move cities. I'd applied for a job as an artistic director of a small not-for-profit organisation. And I didn't really have the qualifications. I'd never curated programs before. It was in the kind of more visual arts, interactive media world.
And where was the organisation?
It was in Melbourne.
And you were living at the time in?
Canberra.
Right, okay.
So I started the job and about a week after I started, we got a note from our major funding agency saying that our programs weren't relevant enough and they were going to withdraw their funding. So I took that as an opportunity to go and talk to our funders, understand their perspective. I collaborated with a couple of curators and we came up with an accessible theme called The House of Tomorrow. We commissioned some new work, some interactive media work. At the time, that was quite a new thing. We referenced the Jetsons, Matthew Surinen's Futuro Home, which is like a spaceship, and a whole bunch of key films that talked about the future. And when we opened, we sort of opened the doors and we'd been working all night. And when we opened, I remember just thinking, I really need to sit down. I haven't sat down for like 24 hours. So I sat down and I looked up and I was thinking, what are all those people doing? There's all those people outside. Where have they come from? And the marketing coordinator ran up to me and he said, look at the lines. It's huge. And I suddenly went, oh my goodness. And that exhibition ended up having 48,000 people through in 2 weeks, whereas the previous year the organisation had only had 1,500.
So that moment when you heard the funding was going to be pulled must have been difficult to grapple with. How did you feel when you first heard that?
I think having a creative education is really helpful because you're used to dealing with things happening and not being able to control the situation. So I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. It'll be interesting to hear what they've got to say and to listen to them. And I'm also just getting to know this organisation. Let me see what I think.
So there was no sense of panic on your part?
No, I just thought, okay, well, there's a challenge. We need to solve it. Let's get all the inputs that we need. Let's have a talk to the key people that are around, on the board, and let's find a way through this. And then I went to talk to the funders. I let them know that I had screen background, that I had storytelling skills, that I understood what they were talking about. And when I came back to them with a theme of the House of Tomorrow, they went, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. That sounds exciting. And actually those same funders went from almost withdrawing funding to actually trebling our funding and giving us ongoing funding. And I suppose the thing that was really great about that experience for me is I realised that those key skills that I had in a creative education, because I'd been to film school, are coming up with a vision, being able to communicate that vision, being able to raise funding, engaging with a creative team and connecting with audiences. So they were fantastic skills to be in a situation which could have been overwhelming.
I love that. Okay, Liz, my next question is about career advice. What's the best piece of career advice you've ever been given?
I've had advice from many different people. I think the advice that actually my stepfather gave me was, you are someone that really cares about what you do. You care about the impact of what you do in your jobs. So you need to find jobs where you're able to do something that's really worthwhile to you. So whether it's creative education, it's about the environment, it's about cultural diplomacy, I need to be in a role where I can actually make a difference and support a bigger vision.
And so is this the sort of advice you would give your students at NIDA?
So with the students, I already know they're super talented because they've gone into NIDA. So I say to them the first day of the academic year, you are in a situation where you are with some of the most incredible creative people around you. You've got this whole community, this whole cohort of people. I want you to engage with these 300 plus people and to meet a new person every day and to connect with them, ask them some questions, because these are your people. These are the people that you're going to be collaborating with or you're going to be connecting with. But also you need to really develop your skills to connect with people that are interesting and find those people when you leave as well, because in the creative industries, you don't get jobs from looking at advertisement. You get jobs from your connections, your engagement, and also you need to create your own work and your own opportunities.
So do you think that applies equally to, say, corporate Australia? How important is it to talk to different people in the office, talk to somebody new every day, develop your networks, keep your networks? Is that a thing that we should all be doing?
100%. I mean, you're at work a lot of hours a day. You want to be engaging in the best, most exciting possible way that you can, and also to be the most effective. So who do you need to meet? Who do you need to engage with that actually will have a shared passion for a particular aspect of your work? And I think a lot of the skills that you learn through a creative education are super useful in the world. So you learn the skills of imagining different futures. You learn the skills of connecting with people, tailoring your key messages so that they are different depending on who you're talking to. I think in lots of ways you become a bit of a backyard psychologist because you think, oh, I'm going to meet this particular person. Let's find out a bit about them. They're going to be interested in this aspect of what I've got to say.
Now, Liz, we are going to take a short break, and when we come back, you pick the questions. I'll see you soon. Welcome back to 15 Minutes with the Boss. I'm here with Liz Hughes, the Chief Executive of the National Institute of Dramatic Art, perhaps better known as NIDA. Now, Liz, in front of you is a cardboard box with about 20 random questions inside. For this next section, I'm going to ask you to pick out a question one at a time.
Fantastic.
Here we go. What part of your job don't you like?
There are many great parts, but there are many tedious parts. The tedious parts are having to deal with fires all the time. I think that the challenge in these jobs is that you have a kind of a bigger vision and picture about where you want to take the organisation, and then you constantly have to deal with the little things that come up. It's complicated, but it's super important. I think it's also going, how do we minimise that particular fire? Is that something that's worth worrying about or not? And making a judgment call. It's just a whole bunch of decisions that you're making all the time. So you're making big decisions, but you're also making hundreds of little tiny decisions every day. But I think it's the ability to keep the big picture in mind and decide what you're going to worry about and decide what you can minimise by someone else doing it or a quick response. So I think it's staying present to both and being able to hold both at the same time.
So do you worry about making wrong decisions, or do you just think you can't get them all right? I will make some that are wrong and will course correct.
This goes to a piece of advice I had when I first started at NIDA. I'd written a very, very direct board report, which was incredibly to the point. And I did ring the chair at the time and I said, I've just sent this off, but I've just reflected on it overnight and I've been so direct. I'm a bit worried that I might have made a mistake. And he said to me at the time, actually, you're going to make so many mistakes in this job and That's okay, as long as you learn from it and you adapt as you go along. You never have the perfect information to make decisions, so it's better to use the information that you have at hand and to do things in a timely way. And of course, you're going to make mistakes along the way, but don't beat yourself up. Move on and work out what you need to focus on next.
And really interesting advice from the chairman. I love that. Okay, let's have another fish in the box. Now, you're a communications specialist. What are key mistakes that you see people in corporate Australia make when they're trying to communicate with a whole plethora of stakeholders?
I think one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're trying to communicate is they don't find a way to tell their story which connects with the key audience. Do a bit of research. Find out about what motivates them. Are they motivated because of their children? Are they motivated because something's happened to them in their previous life, their background? Like, what are the things that drive that individual, that group of people? What's important to them? And once you understand what's important to someone, you can adapt the message that you need to deliver in a way that is understandable to that audience. And often, I think the trick is to be vulnerable and open up something personal about your own life that they can relate to. So you're engaging as a human being to a whole bunch of other human beings. You're not some leader that's up in some hierarchy. You're just a person like your audience is, and they just want a connection and they want you to be authentic and genuine and honest.
And what do you say to corporate leaders who are addressing an audience in terms of their voice, the stance they take, how they hold themselves?
Now, this is where a very specialised area that my corporate training team are very good at. The things I think about when I'm talking to an audience, I think about what I need to get across, who I'm talking to. I also think about the energy that I need to have for a particular communication. So, for example, what I've learned about myself is because I've got a casual style, is that if I'm not careful, people think I'm disinterested. I'm not. I'm actually listening, but I need to actually get across to people that I am excited. So I need to just elevate my communication with energy for a particular instance. So obviously it's about thinking about the context as well and thinking about your own personal style.
So how do you approach, say, a board meeting when you're communicating with your directors?
Well, the good thing about my board is that I can be pretty straight up, which is wonderful. So I think the main thing for board communication is to keep it fairly relevant, concise, pertinent information, to provide as much as possible before the board meeting, but then be open for any questions and conversations.
Okay, time for another question. Now, this is a good one for you. Do you like public speaking, and have you always liked it?
I'm quite used to public speaking now. I used to do a lot of public speaking and I got quite used to it. And then I didn't do it for about a decade. And when I took this job at NIDA, I suddenly realised that I was really, really out of practice and that I was standing up beside people who were really good at it. So I did do some of our corporate training, which helped me enormously. And now I do quite a lot of public speaking. Every now and again, I do get a little bit nervous, but most of the time I'm just focused on engaging with the audience and a conversation with the audience.
And what strategies do you employ, for example, around what you do before you get on the stage or before you get in front of your audience in terms of breathing, the way you hold yourself? Do you have any little tricks?
I do have a few little tricks. One of the things that for me is, say, for example, I've got a session where I'm going to be on stage for quite a long time and I have a lot of tasks. I really like a marked up script and I like to put things in, for example, pause. I also rate my energy level. So a 5 is high energy and a 1 is lower energy. So I rate the energy level that I need for each part of the script so that I can punctuate it and so that I can have an engagement which is not one note. When I have to do an opening and it's a very exciting day, I need to have a 5 and I need to be having that excitement just exuding out of my body. But then when there's a more serious note, it's obviously something which I think about, but I'm more like a 2 and I have that level of energy. Another tip is breathing. So before going on stage, if I'm feeling at all nervous, I take in a breath and then I very, very slowly breathe out. I do that about 4 or 5 times. I also think about slowing down. As my mother says, I talk too quickly. So sometimes I mark up my script with bold for words I want to emphasise, and then I sometimes write slow down, quite literally.
And I now have one final question, Liz, which is, if for some reason you weren't the CEO of NIDA, what would you be doing?
I'd love to be an ambassador to engage with all of my vast network of creative contacts and education contacts and enable a lot of soft power to happen. But I would love to take on a difficult post and to make a massive difference for the country.
Oh, wow. And where would you like that post to be, do you think?
I'd be quite keen for it to be somewhere either in South America or Spain because I speak Spanish. So I'd love to re-engage with the Spanish I learnt as an 18-year-old in Mexico.
Well, that sounds like it would be a very good thing for you and potentially a very good thing for the country. So on that note, Liz, thank you so much for allowing us to spend 15 minutes with the boss.
Thank you so much, Sally. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And thank you to everyone for listening. If you like the podcast and you want to hear more, consider sharing the podcast or writing a review, as it helps us to reach more people. And follow us wherever you get your podcasts. At the Financial Review, we investigate the big stories about markets, business and power. For more, go to afr.com and you can subscribe to the Financial Review, the daily habit of successful people, at afr.com/subscribe. This podcast was hosted by me, Sally Patton, produced and edited by Mandy Coulin and Iona Rennie. Head of audio is Alex Gow, and our executive producer is Fiona Buffini. See you next week.
The Australian Financial Review.